Hi, my name is Helen Monks-Tackar. I'm the author of Generation Gap thriller Precious You. And in this short video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the inspiration for Precious You, some of the books that I was reading and thinking about when I was writing, and a little bit about my writing life. So first of all, Precious You is a page-turning thriller with two female leads. It's a cat and mouse game to the death across the generation divide between millennials and Gen X. So we have Catherine Ross, the editor of an ailing magazine, whose life is sort of systematically cleaned out by a mercurial millennial intern, Lily Lunt. It's a game of revenge. The book's designed to be very Moorish, but also ultimately ask us to think about issues such as, workplace ageism, female dynamics in the workplace, and also sort of the empathy gap between women of my generation, Gen X, 40-somethings, and millennials and younger. So in terms of the inspiration for the book, there were two things happening at the same time a couple of years ago. Number one, I realised to my utter shock that I was no longer young. And it happened when I wasn't really looking or concentrating, but it was certainly someone else's turn to be young. And it made me start to ask a lot of questions about kind of my own self-esteem and what that was rigged up to, about my life and how much of it I had left to live. And yeah, really face some quite big questions about one's self-image and self-worth in the face. Around the same time, I noticed something that struck me as really unfair and uncomfortable, which was this hate narrative around millennials, the sort of willful daily pillaring of them in the mainstream media as, snowflakes, precious, woke, and the belittling of them for their moral choices, their veganism, their sobriety, the choices they were making that were not like our own, that we somehow make people like me feel really uncomfortable. Not me specifically, but people in my generation, they hold an uncomfortable mirror. So I thought, wouldn't it be fun to mash those two sort of emerging feelings into a book? And the book felt like it needed to be a thriller. The problem was I'd never really read any thrillers. So I went about borrowing a ton of books from my sister and began to devour them. And like millions of readers before me, one of the standout works of the genre was, of course, Gillian Flynn's Gone Girl. I just loved that unlikable female narrator, of which Precious You has two. And also the way that Gillian Flynn does sort of social commentary by stealth, around the extent to which women need to be crowd pleasers, the extent to which we need to be always cool and desirable, versus, the kind of revenge women like Amy Dunn, want to exact. Another book around the same time was Miranda Sawyer's Out of Time. So she's a British journalist who had her own sort of midlife epiphany, and it did not feel good. And she uses this book to sort of process and provide something of a handbook for Generation X females like myself. And it helped confirm some of the things on my mind and Catherine Ross's mind were, held in common. Am I still relevant? Am I invisible? Am I sexy? Am I poor? Am I pathetic? Do I still have much of a life left to give? So that was super helpful in sort of clarifying some of those big themes. Another book read around the same time, so very different, is My Name is Lucy Barton by Elizabeth Strout. And again, millions of readers, I absolutely adored it. It's such an economical deep dive into the mind of a woman who is, assessing her life to date and wondering what to do next with the next sort of portion of her life. And I just found it really, really inspiring. So let me tell you a little bit about my writing life. I need a really rich, diverse environment in which to produce my work. So let me tell you about that. So sometimes I'll sit here and write, and sometimes if I fancy a bit of natural light, maybe I'll switch to here, this corner, very nice. And if I'm feeling a bit wild and crazy, I might trot over to this corner. And on Friday, I'll go to my big red chair over here and my houseplant, and I'll do some work here. So to give you some context, today is the first day of lockdown in the UK for coronavirus. And quite honestly, it's not the greatest stretch from my old life to this life. And on that, I think now's a really good time to connect with readers. So I'd like to say thank you so much to everybody who's read Precious You so far and indeed left a review, good or bad, on Goodreads. I'm really keen to connect with readers now. I think it's a really good time to do that. So by all means, ask me any questions you'd like on this forum or connect with me on Twitter, and stay safe and well. Thank you if you've got this far.